it seemed a good idea at the time. When Theresa May became Prime Minister, she put the three Brexiteers, Boris Johnson, David Davis and Liam Fox, into cabinet posts with a role in delivering the referendum result which had brought her to power. May judged that the move would keep them in the tent and reassure Eurosceptics who doubted her credentials because she had backed Remain. Crucially, the three Brexiteers would sell her exit deal to Conservative MPs and the public because they would share ownership of it. To say that things have not quite gone according to plan is the understatement of the century. Davis, the Brexit secretary, has threatened to resign on at least 5 occasions. His most public tantrum was on Thursday, producing a will he, won't he pantomime before May outmaneuvered him over her latest plan to prevent a hard Irish border. Fox has been loyal in public but has fought hard for the UK to break free from the EU so it can strike new trade deals, and so he still has a job as International Trade Secretary. Johnson has thrown his toys out of the pram on several occasions, threatening to quit, upstaging May's speeches and in effect warning the Conservative Party that she's diluting Brexit. Boris Johnson MP, Labour MP Gisela Stewart and UKIP MP Douglas Carswell addressed the people of Stafford in Market Square during the Vote Leave Brexit Battle Bus Tour on the 17th of May 2016. Their lead line on the tour was, "We send the EU £350 million a week. Let's fund our NHS instead." A man shelters from the rain as he arrives at a polling station in London on the 23rd of June 2016. Millions of Britons voted in the referendum on whether to stay in or leave the European Union. Leader of UKIP, Nigel Farage, reacts at the Leave EU referendum party at Millbank Tower in central London as results indicated that it looked likely the UK would leave the European Union. A young couple painted as EU flags and a man with a sign reading "I'm not leaving" protest outside Downing Street against the voters' decision to leave the EU on the 24th of June 2016. British Prime Minister David Cameron resigns on the steps of 10 Downing Street on the 24th of June 2016 after the results of the EU referendum were declared and the United Kingdom voted to leave the European Union. Theresa May receives a kiss from her husband Philip, after becoming the new Conservative Party leader on the 11th of July 2016. May became Prime Minister 2 days later, and although she voted to remain in the referendum, was keen to lead Britain's Brexit talks after her only rival in the race to succeed, David Cameron, pulled out unexpectedly. May was left as the only contender standing after the withdrawal from the leadership race of Andrea Leadsom, who faced criticism for suggesting she was more qualified to be Prime Minister because she had children. British Prime Minister Theresa May delivers her keynote speech on Brexit at Lancaster House in London on the 17th of January 2017, where she spoke about her offer to introduce a transition period after the UK formally leaves the European Union in March 2019. Despite repeating the pro-Brexit mantra of "no deal is better than a bad deal," the Prime Minister claimed she wanted a tone of trust between the negotiators and said Britain was leaving the EU but not Europe. She said there should be a clear double lock needed for the transitional period to make sure businesses had time to prepare for changes to their trading relationships with the EU. British Prime Minister Theresa May in the Cabinet, sitting below a painting of Britain's first Prime Minister Robert Walpole, signs the official letter to European Council President Donald Tusk invoking Article 50 and the United Kingdom's intention to leave the EU on the 29th of March 2017. soon after triggering Article 50, Theresa May called on the 18th of April for a snap general election. The election would be on the 8th of June, and it came as a shock move to many, with her reasoning to try to bolster her position before tough talks on leaving the EU. Prime Minister Theresa May makes a statement in Downing Street after returning from Buckingham Palace on the 3rd of May 2017. The Prime Minister visited the Queen to ask for the dissolution of Parliament, signalling the official start to the general election campaign. An arrangement of British daily newspapers showing front-page stories about the exit poll results of the snap general election. British Prime Minister Theresa May faced pressure to resign on the 9th of June after losing her parliamentary majority, plunging the country into uncertainty as Brexit talks loomed. The pound fell sharply amid fears the Conservative leader would be unable to form a government. Britain's opposition Labour Party leader Jeremy Corbyn gives a thumbs up as he arrives at Labour headquarters in central London on the 9th of June 2017 after the snap general election results showed a hung parliament with Labour gains and the Conservatives losing their majority. Brexit Minister David Davis and European Commission member in charge of Brexit negotiations Michel Barnier address a press conference at the end of the first day of Brexit negotiations in Brussels on the 19th of June 2017. British Prime Minister Theresa May speaks on the 22nd of September 2017, in Florence. May sought to unlock Brexit talks after Brussels demanded more clarity on the crunch issues of budget payments and EU citizens' rights. German Chancellor Angela Merkel joins other EU leaders for a breakfast meeting during an EU summit in Brussels on the 20th of October 2017. The EU spoke about Brexit and announced that insufficient progress had been made. Deputy Leader Nigel Dodds walks off after speaking to members of the media as a protester holding flags shouts after him outside the Houses of Parliament on the 5th of December 2017. British Prime Minister Theresa May was forced to pull out of a deal with Brussels after the DUP said it would not accept terms which see Northern Ireland treated differently from the rest of the UK. Theresa May suffers defeat in Parliament over EU withdrawal bill on the 13th of December 2017. The government was defeated by Conservative rebels and Labour MPs in a vote on its key piece of Brexit legislation. MPs amended the EU withdrawal bill against Theresa May's will, guaranteeing Parliament a meaningful vote on any Brexit deal she agrees with Brussels. Ms May's whip supplied pressure on Conservative rebels who remained defiant in the Commons throughout the day, and in the end the government was defeated by 309 votes to 305. Britain's Prime Minister Theresa May arrives to attend the first day of a European Union summit in Brussels on the 14th of December 2017. European leaders discussed Brexit and announced there was finally sufficient progress at the end of the 2 days. Brexit Secretary David Davis gives evidence on developments in European Union divorce talks to the Commons exiting the EU committee in Portcullis House, London, on the 24th of January 2018. French President Emmanuel Macron gestures to Britain's Prime Minister Theresa May after they hold a press conference at the Royal Military Academy, Sandhurst, on the 18th of January 2018. May and Macron agreed a new border security deal, through which the UK will pay more to France to stop migrants trying to reach British shores. The UK and EU agree terms for Brexit transition period on March 19, 2018. The EU and UK however failed to reach an agreement on the Irish border during the successful talks on other Brexit issues. Now the Foreign Secretary has gone nuclear at a private Tory dinner, warning that unless you have the guts to go for the independent policy, you're never going to get the economic benefits of Brexit, The risk is that we will end up in a sort of anteroom of the EU, with an orbit around the EU, in a customs union and to a large extent in the single market. He branded the Treasury the heart of Remain, accusing it of sacrificing Brexit's medium and long-term gains out of fear of short-term disruption to customs arrangements. That was disloyal enough. To cap it all, Boris said he was increasingly admiring of Donald Trump, suggesting he would make a better job of Brexit than May as he would go in bloody hard and force concessions from the EU. As John McEnroe would put it, Boris cannot be serious. If May turned the negotiating table upside down and stormed out in a Trump-like hissy fit, I doubt the EU would beg her to return. One EU diplomat told me this week that Brexit is number 6 on its list of priorities. Yes, the EU wants a trade deal. But it also wants to turn the page on Brexit. So it might just shrug its shoulders. The result? A no-deal exit next March that would damage the UK economy, and a frantic last-minute scramble for a very limited no-deal deal to keep planes flying and prevent gridlock at Dover. Interestingly, Johnson suggested there might be a meltdown because May is about to become much more combative with Brussels. Perhaps this was wishful thinking. May's advisors have occasionally toyed with the idea of a walkout, to show the EU she is no pushover and reassure Leave voters at home, but she has abandoned her no deal is better than a bad deal mantra. She wants a deal and is making the inevitable compromises, admitting in a letter to Tory MPs that her latest customs plan is unpalatable. David Davis wants post-Brexit relationship with Europe that recognises the history and stands the test of time. Johnson aides say it is sad and very disappointing his words were covertly recorded and leaked to the media. I think he will somehow manage to cope with his disappointment. Why should Davis get all the credit and the limelight for standing up to May? Why not remind the 120,000 Tory members who will choose her successor that good old Boris wants to take the fight to the EU enemy, and is trying to block May's stealthy push for a soft Brexit. Johnson's speech on Wednesday night reflects the Brexiteers' growing fears that, while they won the referendum battle, they might be losing the war. Yes, the UK will leave the EU next March. But if we remain close to it, and stick to its regulations on goods, that would be a failure, not be the clean break they want. I suspect Johnson was also getting his excuses in first for any hit to the economy from Brexit, casting the Chancellor Philip Hammond and May as the fall guys. It is not mumbo-jumbo, as Boris claimed, to ensure frictionless trade with our biggest export market. Boris would prefer the reckless gamble of a short-term hit so we are free to strike wonderful trade deals with reliable partners like, well, his new friend Trump, who is threatening a global trade war at today's G7 summit in Canada and, ominously, won't even grant May a meeting there. The Three Musketeers should direct their fire away from the Prime Minister, and stop undermining her attempts to get a deal which at least cushions the impact of the act of economic self-harm they perpetrated.